Hey, everybody, I'm David with Bolivar Live, and once again, we're here with Chandra, with Aran and Franklin, and we're going to talk about insurance. There's some things that have come up. Chandra, y'all do a lot of work out here, and we're seeing some new subdivisions coming in. Uh, but with insurance, when you're buying in these subdivisions, you really need to know, is it Cobra Zone? Is it not Cobra Zone? Was it plotted before 2003, I think? And it's like that. I know if you have a house that was built before, was it, or during, before January 1st of 1998, I think,
88.
You don't have to have the certificate or something, and your
Right.
insurance is typically cheaper. Well, now we've come into Bolivar's expanding by leaps and bounds, and some of this land's coming in is going to be Cobra Zone. Now you can get the TD8 certificate, but will TWIA write the insurance?
So that's the challenge that we're facing right now, David, is that we're platting these new subdivisions that were platted in 2020, 2022. They're brand new, and they're after that cutoff date. And while TDI will issue a certificate on the structure, TWIA has an exclusion. It's legislatively mandated. It was done way back, I think 2015 or so. And they said that anything platted after 2003 in the Cobra zone could not be eligible to be written for TWIA. So TWIA is off the table when it comes to a new construction in the Cobra zone. So we're going to
But if
have
it was,
to,
but if it was platted before then,
yes, even if the house wasn't built, if the house is built now and it was platted prior, then it's fine.
okay,
But if it was platted after 2003, then yes, um, we would have to find some kind of alternate private insurance. And it's really challenging to do that because not a lot of people want to write in the wind zone. But the good thing is we can get the WPI 8, which helps showing that it's compliant. And then if we get fortified, that opens up the doors for more people to want to write the policy. Now, there's some carriers that just absolutely will not write a Cobra Zone no matter what. But then there's a lot of them that, like we're trying to get a list together, and see who will write this because it's really important because those houses haven't started being built yet, and we don't
right,
want to build all these houses. I think one of the subdivisions we've developed, there's like 50 houses in there, and we don't want to get 50 houses in and not have a way to get insurance. So that's a
right.
real problem. It's going to make it a marketing nightmare and not a good investment for the developer. So we need to kind of circumvent and figure out these problems and how we can, make this a viable option. So that's one of the challenges we're facing right now. I mean, the good news is some of the older subdivisions that have already been platted.
And
If
there's
you
still some of those,
correct,
and
I
there's
think
quite a few.
Biscayne and few others. They're older. They were plotted a long time ago. Even if
Right.
they have some lots that were being rebuilt, or if you knock down a house and rebuild it, then you're fine. But it's the new stuff, and that's awesome. Bolivar's growing, and the thing is, if we can't find a way to navigate this, then the only way to fix it is through a legislative change. So then we're going to have to
And I
really
was
reach out to our legislators
I
and
was just
bend
asking
their
you
ear.
what would it take, because when you're driving down Bolivar
Hmm.
and you point out and say this section of land over here is TWIA, I mean Cobra, and this over here next to it isn't Cobra.
It
There's
doesn't look any
real
different.
it, there's
It looks
no
exactly the
difference
same. I mean,
to
so
and everyone knows how I am about my opinions. This was a way for insurance companies to be able to refuse to write stuff.
I
I
I,
mean, when
I
it
think
comes
you're
down
right.
to
Yeah,
it, they figured out a way, but
to
there is
exclude
quite
those
a
things.
bit of property down here that was plotted years and years ago, by
Yes,
even back in the 70s and
yes,
60s. And so even though it hasn't been developed for the last 30 years, that's still eligible
it
for
is
TWIA insurance because it was platted before the cutoff date
correct.
in Satin. So if someone's looking to buy property down here,
You got to really
to build a
watch.
subdivision.
It may look really good, and that may be why it looks really good because
Look for
you
stuff that was already plotted.
right. So I mean, if you have something that you have to look at the winds, you have to look at the flood, you have to look if it's close to the beachfront, if you can use concrete, because we have some clients that we've been trying to do designs for in Gilchrist. Those everybody thinks, oh well, it's really cheap, and we can get the lot really cheap. Well, there's a reason for that because the ground elevation's really low, the base flood's really high, and the piling require, and they may or may not be able to use concrete at the ground. So all those things kind of together, and you want to put a house way up there. I mean, it's like the perfect storm, and then they get upset like, well, why can't I just use a 12 by 12? Well, why do I have to add more piling? Well, why do I have to
Right.
brace all this stuff? It's like because you're taking a house and you're putting it up 16, 17 feet in the air, and you have all this additional flood load on it, and you have all this additional scour and erosion because you don't have a foundation. So it's like it's really again like the perfect storm as far as design goes. Not being able to design a house cost effectively, but they got this great deal on the slots. So they really want to use it, but they don't like my design. you know.
Isn't isn't there a distance from the dune line or the water line that you can't pour concrete, or you can pour it under the house, but
Yes.
you can't pour a driveway or something?
Correct. So the GLO, if you don't have a dune, if you just have a veg line, it is 200 feet from the veg line is where that the GLO manages the first 1,000 feet of the beach.
Right.
That first 200 feet, no concrete. From 200 to 800, you can have concrete under the habitable structure. So basically, porch and roofed
Right.
area,
Your
basically.
house.
Okay. So that's what we usually do is just the roofed area. But when you get into that, you know, even though that you have that 200 feet, you still have to make it past the setbacks. So you're usually
Right.
looking at about 100 feet back. So then you've got that last 100 feet. Well, they're still cramming a house in there, and
Yeah.
you can't use concrete. You have to use the fibercrete pavers, and those give you zero structural support, and so it just makes it. Those things will just pop up and break as soon as
Right.
the water starts hitting it. You have nothing there to hold the piles together, so they're all independent. They're not interlocked into a system like the houses two rows back.
Right.
So it's just harder for those piles to function independently. So they end up being bigger, more of them. We have to brace them. We have to cross brace them,
Deeper.
something to make it work. And
People
you'll see a
don't
lot more round pilings on front row too, because the round pilings are a lot stronger than the square pilings.
and people don't realize that it may just be a 4-inch driveway or pour under your
Path.
house, but there's bell holes. There's
Right.
a lot of other stuff that goes into
Right.
that that's figured into the structure of the house and the
Yeah.
piling. We
We
saw a
we
lot
put
of that.
footings around, yeah, we put footings around each pile, and
Hmm.
then just have the 4-inch slab because that gives, as the water and the wind are pushing on the pile, it gives it something to bear against to keep it
Right.
from trying to turn over. So yeah, we try to do that.
You made a comment, maybe we can do another show on it, but you talked about round pilings versus the square pilings. Is there a big difference? If
There's a
you've got a
there's a big difference.
12-inch piling and you have a 12-inch pole that's round, it's the same amount of wood,
So
but
actually, yeah. So think about the tree, how the tree grows. It grows in rings, right?
right,
So if we have a 12-inch piling, to get a 12-inch piling, we have to have about a 16, I mean, almost an 18-inch tree to
right,
cut that 12-inch piling. And we have cut all of the strength rings off of those edges. So it's actually a smaller before we get to the strength rings. We have all these little, squared off
right.
edges, but the strength rings are more like 10,
Yeah.
So you're
Okay.
not really getting the same, the same net section. And actually, because of the way the water hits it, if the water hits the piling that it's round, it disperses differently than if it hits the face of
Of a
a
square
square
piling.
pile. So it puts a different load condition on it. So the round piling, there's a factor. So on a square pile, you use 1.75. On a round pile, you use 2.25, and it's
Okay.
it's pretty significant. Like it's
Yeah, it is.
like 60% more capacity out of the round pile. So
Is it
yeah,
easier to find round pilings or square pilings? Because we've gone through some problems with building, finding pilings, and
right.
it's getting easier now. But
Yeah,
now we've had another storm in Florida, and
yeah,
they're actually talking about something now going up the East Coast a little bit. Not bad, but you never know. But
yeah.
is it easier to find round pilings, and are they becoming more popular?
They are becoming more popular. They're more cost effective. And, I think as people get more educated on it, they'll understand, why round pilings are more efficient. It's more environmentally friendly for sure. There's less waste. I mean, they take the scraps and they make, OSB and stuff. So it's
Right.
not going to complete waste. But basically, all they have to do is take the tree and turn it in a lathe and kind of get it smoothed out in a consistent diameter. And most of the time they're tapered. And so you'll have like a 13 on one end and an 8 on the other, 8 or 10 on the other. So you'll get a tapered pile anyway. So it's not even a continuous diameter, although you can get a continuous diameter pile, which are really pretty actually, because they lay them all and they lay them all to that same diameter. Um,
So
but
on a
they are more
tapered
cost effective.
So on a tapered piling, which end goes down? The skinny end or
The
the
skinny end,
skinny
yeah,
end goes
the
down?
skinny end goes down and then it flares up. And then what we look at is, so maybe if it's a 13, 10 or whatever, we'll do like 11, 11 and a half as because that's what's going to be at the ground. That's what we use
Hmm.
for our pile section. And so it'll be a little bit better above ground. And, that's kind of our net section at the
Okay.
ground.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, great. Well, if people want to get information on from you on from Aran and Franklin, maybe they have a home they want to get designed and have the engineering done, or talk to you about the strong home inspection program or the fortification. And I've talked to several of the insurance companies down here, Priest and Tina, and both of them are really learning about that because like I told him, I said, man, the cost that you can save, yes, it costs a little bit more to make it, but I really think in the long run, you're going to save a whole lot more than what that cost is.
Yeah, the savings are unbelievable. And in the non Cobra zone, you can get a house that's built to a higher standard than TDI, even, and it's going to cost you less money. It's going to cost you a tremendous amount less money than it
Yeah,
would have cost you
I
otherwise.
know.
And you'd have better coverage and less deductible. So
Yeah, I
it's
know
just
when Dave was
no brainer.
talking, if I'm not mistaken, it was almost some of it was getting down to like 40% off, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I mean, and
It
when you're
was
talking about
crazy.
$5,000 a year for insurance, man, that's a big savings.
Yeah.
So it
It's
doesn't
huge.
take much
And
to,
and that's every year, David. That's not
yeah,
just one time. That's like every year. So, I
yeah,
mean, now you do have to do a recertification after 5 years, but just to make sure that it's still in good shape, the roof's
right,
got 5 more years of life, all that kind of stuff. But that's probably less than $1,000 to get it recertified, and you're still saving five
right,
thousand dollars a
right,
year. So, I
right,
mean, no
right.
brainer.
Well, if anyone needs information on the Strong Home Inspection Program, the Fortification Program, or you're looking to maybe develop some property or any of that,
Yeah.
you can get hold of Aran and Franklin online at aaronfranklin.com. They've got offices in Beaumont, Texas City, Rockport, Florida, just
Yep.
about everywhere up and down the Gulf Coast, don't you?
Yeah, I pretty much touch everything along the Gulf Coast. If we don't have offices there, we still do work there. So
Right, right.
yeah,
So we're going to head on out. Chandra, thanks for taking the time this morning to
of course.
meet with us. Until next time, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Y'all have a great day, great week. Come see us. God bless, and bye-bye.